So the last thing I'll show you here is how to use Gitkraken or a similar GUI tool to visualize diffs, to actually see them in a file instead of having to see them in your terminal. A lot of the time this is really useful, especially if you're working on large projects with tons of files, and this is one of the areas I think GUIs shine when you're working with Git. So here's Gitkraken. Unfortunately, as I've said a couple times before, I can't make this any larger. So it lets me make it larger up until this point, which is still not very large. So I'll do my best to try and enhance and zoom in post-production. But here's my colors repository. Very simple, right? We have our initial commit. We added red, orange, yellow, green, add blue and purple, add indigo. Then I created this odd numbers branch, right? I removed 2 and 4 from the numbers. It's this project file here, numbers and colors. If I want to see a diff, let's start by making some unstaged changes right now, right? Git status, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So why don't I add something to colors, like I love the rainbow. We'll save that. And then in numbers, let's add 5. This is on the master branch, 6 and 7, like that. All right, so now I have 2 files that have been changed, both of which are unstaged. So now, as it shows me here, 2 file changes in working directory, I can click to view those changes. So that's what it's showing me here, unstaged and staged. So I can click on either of these files, and it visually shows me this new change, showing it to me in the file here. I love the rainbow was added. It shows it in green. So you can see there also, here's our little diff header. It's not showing the entire file, right? I can click to see file view or just diff view. And then same thing with numbers. Here it's showing me that 5, 6, and 7 are new. They've been added. Let's do something slightly different. Let's delete, for whatever reason, I don't know, we'll get rid of violet. Okay, so now go back to colors, and it's showing me violet. That has been removed. It's non-existent currently, versus I love the rainbow has been added. And again, it's just showing me the diff view. And then if I wanted to, if I staged one of these files, let's stage colors. I can go here and see, okay, here's the changes I have staged. Here's the changes I have unstaged. So if I stage both files and I just want to see that diff, now I can, just go between them. Nothing has changed in terms of what's different and what's not different. It's just, if I was doing this with Git commands, I would do git diff versus git diff head versus git diff staged. Here, it's just a matter of clicking. If they're in the staged files area, then I'm viewing a diff for what is staged. If they are not staged, here, I'm looking at the unstaged changes from numbers.txt. Other things that we can do, if I get out of here quickly, sometimes I do get lost. Here it is. I can X out. If I want to see changes between 2 commits, for example, I can click on one commit, like where we added indigo, and then hold down Shift and select another commit, like that. And then over here, it's showing me viewing diff between 2 commits. There's only one file that changed, and this is what changed. Right, this is the difference between them. So I removed purple, I added indigo between those 2 commits. Or let's do a more drastic difference from the very beginning, or how about when we added red up to when we added indigo, here's what changed. Or I could have multiple files involved. I'll open a different project. Okay, here's a much larger project, that 2048 app I was showing you, right, where we had the more complicated diffs. If I wanted to visually see the difference between some commits, I could, let's just pick 2 early commits. How about, sure, those 2. I can see all of these files were changed, although it looks like 10 of them were renamed, but 4 files were modified. And then I can see the different chunks. I can see the chunk headers. So this is visually, for me, a lot easier. It's often a lot easier to work with if I really am trying to understand the difference between 2 commits or between two branches or something like that. Doing it from the command line good to know how to do, and I still use that. But if I really need to dig down into the changes and like spend some time working through what's different, then I really like the diff view from editors or from GUIs like Gitkraken. So if I want to see the same thing that I'm seeing over here, when I just type git diff head, right? This is everything that's changed since the last commit. Very early in the section, I think the first or second video, I changed index.html, I changed grid.js, and I changed main.css. So I can view that here. I click on my work in progress. So this is nothing, committed yet. And then I can see the 3 files, one at a time. Here's what's changed in index. I can visualize it pretty easy. I can see what changed in the grid.js file and in main.css. So I find this just better, easier to work with than this, personally. And the last thing I'll show you is if you want more context, you want the entire file. Right now we're in hunk. People call it hunk instead of chunk sometimes. They mean the same thing. I'm viewing one chunk or one hunk at a time, versus inline view shows me the entire file with the diff right there. So I can find that one down there. It's not too bad, but some of the files are longer, right? So I've got to scroll quite a ways if I want to see everything. Versus if I go to hunk view, I just see the 3 hunks with some context around each change. So that's it. Nice part of Gitkraken and all these other GUIs, they pretty much all offer a view like this. It's pretty standard.